Mitch Marner is a father. Brad Marchand still a rat. Don't you dare touch that dial. The Leafscast is back.
Holy mackerel, what a shot! It's Austin Matthews! Do you believe that? Pounds it off the roof of the net!
Ho ho!
Was never in doubt.
Welcome back to the Leafscast. Stephen Douglas joined by Tim and Ryan Allison, funky uncle producer Dave on the buttons, recapping the Maple Leafs Game 1 victory over the Florida Panthers 5-2. How are you guys feeling?
I think you missed a few goals there,
Oh
Steve.
my gosh, 5-2. 5-4. I have been butchering this all playoffs long.
If we're only counting the ones that Stolarz let in, then you were pretty close. That was I would have enjoyed a 5-2 win. They made it quite a lot closer than made me comfortable, but man, what an exciting game. It was quite the rocket fest. I feel like we were blown by them and we felt so fast the first half of the game, and then it was just total opposite the second half, and it's going to be a doozy of a series. This is going to be nuts.
Yeah, when Florida started pushing and really it was their bottom six that just took over the game, and we just had no answer for them. It was just constantly on our end. They seemed to just set up at will, and we struggled. I think we finished the night 0 for 5 on the power play. And is Berube looking at this saying, "Oh, we didn't give up a shorthanded goal, so I guess that's a win, and we'll keep."
No, they scored a power play goal, Tim, when we had too many men on the ice.
No. Right. No, I'm saying we didn't score a power play goal though. Did we?
No,
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Anyways.
Happy Cinco de Mayo, by the way. We have a YouTube feed. We don't tell anybody to listen to it. Tune into the YouTube feed to look at my sick Maple Leafs poncho that doesn't get enough love. The 5th of May, Leafs score 5 goals. Tim's all doom and gloom. The Leafs just beat the Florida Panthers on the first game of their series. And yes, there were points of this game where the Panthers were pressing, but the Leafs got out to a quick lead. William Nylander with a goal 30 seconds into the game, and the Leafs led the entire night. There wasn't a point where it was tied. It got close. It got a little dicey. We got a lot to get into, but overall, this is the best case scenario the Leafs can come out of after Game 1, and honestly, not the outcome I was expecting. I understand that it was close in the end, but the Leafs led the entire night tonight, and I would say overall look like the better team.
I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but I think the Maple Leafs starting goaltender leaving the game injured is far from the best case scenario the Leafs could have hoped for in Game 1.
If
you're talking about the outcome, the Leafs get started off real fast. A goal 30 seconds in from Nylander, and then just blow the gates off of there. You get to a 4-1 lead halfway through the game. Are you kidding me? Obviously, it tilts in the second half. You could say it was Wall coming in instead, and he was a little more leaky. Or to me, it was just Florida just turned it on for the second half of the game. That was not the same Florida Panthers we saw for the first 25 minutes of gameplay for the second half of that game. And it makes me nervous moving forwards that, to me, the Leafs played at their best for the first half. We got up to a 4-1 lead. Then Florida played at their best for the second half. And basically, they got up to 4 goals themselves. So it's kind of interesting trying to take anything away from the game as to who was better or who wasn't better. Score effects have something to do with it for that second half of the game. We were playing a little differently, being up 4-1. But I don't know. It's great. Morgan Riley scored again. We're still getting goals from the D. So it's some stuff to be happy about.
And Tanev scored all the goals from the D.
Ryan he's in rough shape with this no defenseman scoring in the playoffs prediction. Ryan's really
I'll wear it.
Struggling. But that first period, the Leafs weren't winning the game out of, a fluke there. They hold the Florida Panthers to 5 shots. Yeah. The Florida Panthers that just wiped the Tampa Bay Lightning off the earth. to 5 shots in the first period, get a couple of goals themselves, and look like the overall more dominant team. Stolarz excellent in that first period. And yeah, you go into the second one, and like Brian said, Scorefax is going to play into how, you know, the Leafs change their style, right? Because like going even back to the previous series that we saw, once the Leafs get that lead, they're going to try to sit on it, right? And even some of the goals that the Leafs end up getting, like even like Matthew Knies' late one, the Leafs weren't necessarily in a situation where they're desperately trying to score, but if you can get a chance off of the rush like they do, which Florida gave them, like Florida was a little leaky as well, I'd say defensively, some bad changes and just opportunities where, you know, new dad Mitch Marner's able to find that lane, get a nice pass off. And I mean, Willie looked excellent tonight. Matthews looked pretty good. Matthew Knies is the best player for the Maple Leafs.
Yep.
Bar none at this point. I don't even know what else to say about it. Like, just, I don't know. The stars on the Leafs came through, and the stars on the Florida Panthers did not. And that's the story of the game to me.
Yeah, and I think like we've said this how many times before for the series, like what do the Leafs have to do to win? And say like Leafs will win and die by the core four, by their top players playing like the best players in the series. And tonight it was true. Like, I mean, we can dissect it, but at the end of the day, like Florida didn't have an answer for Matthew Knies.
Well, what's crazy is that we got 5 goals in this game. All of them even strength. We scored 5-on-5 goals tonight. Like, we never did anything remotely close to that against Ottawa in the first round. And beyond that, like, the offense is great, although I'm not going to be counting on Bobrovsky to let in many softies through the 5-hole like that moving forwards again. I think that we got a little lucky on a couple of those. What stood out to me is how good we were at limiting the Florida Panthers offense, which is a funny thing to say when they just put up 4 goals against us here. It just looks like the same thing we were able to do against Ottawa, like blocking shots, keeping them to the outside, limiting high danger chances. Florida didn't look too dangerous. Even in the second half of the game when they were really pushing, they weren't getting high quality like cross seam passes, or we were boxing them out in front of the net. Like, even look at the goals that they scored, and some of them were, you know, kind of fluky goals, which, and we had a few of those ourselves. But it just looks like defensively, like start to finish, the full 60 minutes, we actually played pretty well, and it looked like we might be able to manage Florida's offense here, which I didn't know coming into it. Like, they're much better offensively than the Ottawa Senators are. Mm-hmm. And we did a great job against Ottawa, but that doesn't mean you're going to be able to go in the same game plan against Florida. But it seemed to work.
Well, let's talk about the fluky goals, quote unquote fluky goals, because I don't know if they were fluky or not. So obviously Anthony Stolarz leaves the game tonight. That's like really the story of the game, right? The Leafs starting goaltender. He's played the most games in consecutively he has in his entire career, and was playing excellent in this game up to this point. Takes an elbow to the back of the head from, you guessed it. You guessed it. You don't even have to know hockey. I ask you, who on the Florida Panthers just elbowed the Leafs goalie in the back of the head? And they're going to say Sam Bennett. It is always the guy that you most suspect.
Mm-hmm. Crazy stat. 2 years ago, it was Sam Bennett who suplexed Matthew Knies. You know who was refereeing that game 2 years ago?
I know that Tim Allison does. I do know that.
It was Graham Skilleter and Rooney, the same referees 2 years ago that let Bennett get away with murder, let him get away with elbowing Stolarz in the head.
I mean, to be fair, like, I saw it happen, and I legitimately thought Stolarz was just kind of not faking it, but he's trying to get a whistle. Like, Florida was all over them at that point. Just like, all right, like, he took a little bumps, and I was like, oh, okay, let's get a whistle. Guy was vomiting 10 minutes later, clearly has a concussion. He probably won't play the next few games if he's concussed. Like, he'll be out for a while here.
This is brutal. I mean, in the moment, it looked like a bang bang, play in front of the net, and just something seemed to happen. But I cannot ignore the fact that it is always the guy that you most suspect that would do something like this. And that was one of probably 12 elbows that we saw flying in the game tonight. By the way, a couple of them that Florida got punished for, but this is a big deal. The Leafs goalie is vomiting on the bench and then leaves the game midway through, and Joe Woll comes in and make some big saves, but let some goals in. I mean, I'm so concerned, though, about this Anthony Stolarz situation because Stolarz was playing so good. I mean, oh, my gosh.
Well, the start of the series, you say, what has to go right for Leafs beat the Florida or to beat Florida this series? Number one, the answer is Stolarz has to be the best goalie in the series. Like Leafs, like Stolarz is
Sam Bennett knew that. That's why he took care of business.
Absolutely, and the Department of Player Safety will do nothing. That much is certain.
You know, and it's interesting because when it happened, it didn't look. I know I saw it like slowed down, right? Replays. I kind of agree with you, Rye, where it looked like maybe Stolarz was kind of trying to get a call there or something like that, which, I mean, he did also, like, there was legitimate contact there in the crease, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, throwing up on the bench is never a good thing. David, has that ever been a good thing, throwing up? No.
It's not fun by any means.
Yeah, I mean,
you look for success.
Well,
So,
I mean, all the same, like, even though I don't think it looks so bad, I do completely agree with you. Like, zero benefit of the doubt of Sam Bennett. He's probably the third biggest rat in the Florida Panthers, which makes him the third biggest rat in the entire league. So it's not good, and it's frustrating that it's happening again, that our players are out to arguably dirty plays and nothing will be done to it. But at the end of the day, like, that's out of the Leafs' hands. Maybe Department of Player Safety will look at it. I agree with Tim. I don't think they will. So now it's probably going to be Joseph Woll again in for the next game. He needs to be better. Like, it's not like none of the goals, well, maybe one of the goals was a little weak, but like, it's not like he had a bad game. But, you know, you're not winning many games if you let in 4 goals on, well, I guess he only let in 3. 3 goals on, what was it, 12 shots or so? Like, it wasn't great for Joseph Woll, so.
But Stolarz had let in 1 in the game, and I wondered about the flukiness because, like, you know, I would say definitely 2 of those goals, right, like quick little deflections right in front of the net, really tough saves to make. Yes. But, you know, the game happens fast. For all I know, Stolarz made 2 or 3 saves exactly like that, but we didn't see replays of it because he made the save and the game moves on and that's it, right? And you just you have to wonder, right? Like, if Stolarz is in the game and he's healthy and he's feeling fine, how many of those still go in, and what's the final score of this game? I have to assume it would be less. And Woll came in and played really well, and you also, I mean, you got to factor in that, like, he came in cold,
Absolutely.
right? Has not played a game in probably 2.5 weeks. Like, that's not nothing. But I don't know. The Leafs have one of the better backup goalie situations in the playoffs still, so, like, for that, it's good, but I don't know.
Well, we came into the season knowing that both Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz miss time or, like, have not even played full seasons just because they've both been backups throughout their career. So I think we were coming into it thinking, you know what, like, we're going to have to pick a guy for playoffs here, but there's probably a decent chance we're going to have to use both of them, maybe from injury, maybe just because one of them's not going and we need to shake it up here. We got through the whole first round with Stolarz. He was arguably the number one reason why we won that first round. And now it's up to Woll to prove he can be a starter in this playoffs too. Like, if Woll plays great against Florida here, he has a chance, even when Stolarz gets back, to just keep the net. Like, it's not like Woll was the definitive number 2 throughout the season and Stolarz was the absolute number 1. There was many times on this podcast probably where we were demanding that Woll would be the starter goaltender for playoffs. So I expect him to be better next game. You're right. Coming in cold, it's never easy for any goaltender. That it always goes a little sideways. So next game he will be better, and I hope the power play is better too.
It'll be real interesting because I do wonder if, like, the first period is a little bit of, like, Florida a bit on their heels, maybe a bit overconfident. Like, every single analyst is always it is interesting listening to kind of the debriefs of the different series and the number of people that say, like, oh, Florida is, like, dismantled Tampa, who had an elite team, so it makes Florida really good. Meanwhile, like, how many times do teams eliminate the Leafs and say, oh, Leafs had a huge choke? Like, is no one talking about the huge choke that was the Tampa Bay Lightning? Like, they lost to Florida in 5 games. Clearly, like, it's not only because of Florida is here, right? So, I don't know. Well, I'm not to downplay Florida, but I think that, like, in that first period, there's probably an element where, like, they didn't start on time. How many times have we seen that? And so I think next game, I think it's going to be harder for the Leafs. I don't think they're going to get away with as many softies on Bobrovsky. I don't think they're
I don't think that it was a miscast to say that Florida was the favorite going into the series, though. Like, the way that they played in the second half of that game, they played like that for 5 straight games against the Tampa Bay Lightning and made them look like dummies. So it's still, we won game 1. This is one of our home games. We were supposed to win this game. We should win the next game too. And I feel like I was going into this game terrified that we might lose it. And we almost did. Like, Florida came roaring back. They're a really good team. They're arguably the best team in the whole league. But guess what? To win the Stanley Cup, you got to beat the other best teams in the league. You should be the best team in the league if you're winning the Stanley Cup. So we took care of business tonight, and that's all you can ask for.
I just want to say, if the Leafs win this series, I want to see all those media losers piling on the Leafs. I want them saying, oh, the Leafs beat the best team in the league. I guess they're going to win the cup. We'll see. Florida gets too much credit. Give some to the Leafs.
To be the man, you got to beat the man. Who said that, Ryan? Who said that quote?
That was Stephen Douglas.
Yeah, nailed it.
Said that quote.
Nailed it.
Can we talk about the power play? Because that was the biggest concern for me in this game.
Well, they're gifted 5 opportunities, which is more than I think anybody's going to expect, especially in a playoff game. We'll call it 4.5 because one of them gets stopped after a minute. Pontus Holmberg with the too many men on the ice. But especially in a couple of key moments, I think of that last one of the game where they needed a goal there. I think like they had like They were only up 1. They needed a goal. You get a power play with like 8 minutes to go in the game, and they have a couple of nice looks, but nothing even, I don't know, remotely close to a real goal opportunity. I can't think of like one incredible save that Bobrovsky made on the power play tonight. So it's really concerning because since the start of that last series, the Leafs power play has been really anything but a reliable way to score goals.
Well, it's just so puzzling because to start the last series, it was so on fire. We would just win the face-off, pucks on the net, and they were going in. And you'd think that they'd be like, just doing that. That would be a wake-up call to them to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't be overpassing and looking for that perfect play. Let's just get pucks on the net. We have monsters in front of the net like Matthew Knies, who's at least a foot taller than everybody else on the ice. Like, just shoot it on net, and things could happen. This game, for 5 straight power plays, pass around the outside, cycle it back, D to whatever you call the other person at the point, D Flank. To forward D. It's just like nothing on net, and then all of a sudden it gets intercepted and it's down the other. It's just the lack of shots was incredibly frustrating, and there was no adjustment. 5 power plays. How do you not say, like, mid-game, Mark Savard, the power play coach, pull the guys aside and say, hey guys, last time we passed it around for a 2 minute straight and didn't get any shots. This time, let's shoot. Nope. Just pass all game long. Maybe that's too much of an adjustment to make mid-game. I don't know. But
I wonder if the shorthanded goals they let in, they're now a bit snake bitten and they're worried. Like, they're like in their own heads and they're like too tentative. Like, I agree as well. Like, they're so paranoid about, and like, rightfully slow. They allow that shorthanded goal in that game against Ottawa. It like kills them. Yeah. And so, but like, you can't let that stop you from ever scoring on a power play ever again. And so, like, you're gonna have to, like, I watched Florida's power plays and they just get in like within 6 feet of the net. They're having their box and like making it look easy. Mm-hmm. And we just let them do it sometimes. But so I agree. Like, the power play has to be our next game. Like, this game is just like they just couldn't get anything together. I saw so many drop passes. But I don't know. I think they'll be better next game, but you're right. They have to adjust.
Why do you say they'll be better next game though? They were horrible.
It couldn't be worse
for 4 games in a row now. Like, we got 1 power play goal in that game 6 against Ottawa when we bumped them. But game 3 we scored 0. Game 4 we scored 0. Game 5 we scored 0. In this game we scored 0. Like, it's been on the downward trajectory, and we've seen so many previous playoff series end for the Leafs on the losing note because our power play is just useless out there, and our penalty kill is also useless out there. It's like special teams have killed us before. It's got to be a high priority for the Leafs to fix here.
Got to be a high priority, but I mean, I think they just, like, step 1, go back to the 5 forward power play. Go with what was. Riley was on a lot of the power plays today.
Jeez, I didn't even notice that. What are they
Well,
doing?
and partly that's Nye's moving to the second power play, which like is good for the second unit, right? You get the big net presence, and the guy is good. But the top unit is what carried you for the second half of the series. So go back to that. Don't allow a shorthanded goal and score.
It really sounds like a casual argument to say just shoot more, but tonight it really felt like they were gun shy, especially William Nylander. The number of like quality opportunities I saw him have, and just looking for that like weird pass to JT like in between two legs just doesn't make sense, especially with a lot of the goals that scored tonight, which was like not necessarily right in front of Bobrovsky's face. So they've got to fix it, and I don't know. I tend to lean on Ryan's side a little bit, that like it's been really streaky, and sometimes like the streakiness, it just depends on how the series goes, right? Because it's like it doesn't matter what your regular season, power or power play percentage was. Like, how are you going to do against the Florida Panthers, right? Mm-hmm. Just because you scored so many in the regular season against Columbus doesn't mean that like you're going to have a great showing against these guys. And they had a really good penalty kill against Tampa in round 1. So, and you get gifted with 5. I don't know if they're going to get 5 in the next game. Like, I don't know. It not often, It's concerning. I mean, you get 5 on 5 goals is pretty sweet, but I mean, they got, I think, 1 power play, maybe 2 power play. Well, you get the extra man, which is basically a power play. So they basically get 2 tonight, and Florida does. But I don't know. You're not going to win the series if you have a garbage special teams, and I'd say tonight's performance is basically garbage on special teams. So, I don't know. It's not going to be easy. None of this is easy, but we get the W.
That's why it's the playoffs.
It just means more. What will you give? Everything. I'm watching all these bogus American commercials, which, by the way, they hate the Leafs so much. All these Canadian broadcasters, they hate the Leafs so much.
The US ones?
Yeah, they're all just like highlighting how like, oh, this is brutal for the Leafs. They make it sound like the Leafs are up 4, and they make it sound like they're down 1-8 or something like that. Like, it's just like all the time. I'm basically watching on mute. I'm struggling.
Steven, here's what you do. You listen to the Canadian radio broadcast, but you watch it on the TV. That way you hear all the positivity.
Yeah, like 45 seconds before it actually happens on the screen. How about you take a lap for the rest of the pod, Dave? Give me a break. Okay. Anything else?
Game 2. What do you want to see?
Yeah, we're moving on, basically. So, Leafs are back in action Wednesday night at the bank in Toronto. Obviously, we can expect that Woll is going to be in the game. Stolarz, just have to assume we're not going to see him. I would assume for the rest of this series. I mean, throwing up, never good.
Concussions are so weird, though. But like, I think that he's still the guy, and so I think they're going to be cautious with him and give him like the time he needs. And Joe Woll, it's the time to rise to the occasion.
Yeah. I'm looking for the next game to be a little more physical. I actually thought, besides the occasional flying elbows that Florida got punished for quite a bit, a lot less like extracurriculars around the net, after a save, and just like general meanness and just like insanity on the ice, where I thought this was going to be a huge part of it. But like, I think that's playoff hockey, and the Leafs need to be doing that and getting in their face. I don't want you to take some bad penalties. I know Ryan's probably pretty pissed off at Domi, but that's what I'm looking for.
I am.
In the next game.
Yes, I am.
Because aside from that, like offensively, after you hopefully clean up that power play, I can't ask for any more. They held the Florida Panthers to 5 shots in a period. I can't ask for more there. So it's Woll and the physicality for me.
Yeah, it was actually kind of interesting. I was also expecting there to be more, extracurricular activities in between the whistles, and it seemed like the Leafs weren't too interested in partaking in that. They just kind of skated away and let Tkachuk and Bennett yap or whatever they were doing. So I don't know if that will be more present in the next games. Maybe the Leafs will take more exception to when they elbow our goaltenders in the head and actually punch someone in the face for doing that. I'm going to say, it feels exhausting saying at this point, but like it just drives me crazy every time I see Austin Matthews take a shot from the slot and it goes wide. I don't know. Maybe there's just nothing to be done and he's just injured and can't do it anymore, but Holy cow, getting just like any one of those shots, prime opportunities to actually hit the net and go in would be so nice.
Yeah.
It would be so nice to get some contributions from him. He's such a big part of our team. And he's still phenomenal in the face-off dot. We were owning them in the face-off circle all night tonight. It was him and JT both excellent. But man, I want to see him get some goals this series. It's just so needed. So that's for me. That'll probably be for me for the rest of this playoffs. Please, Austin Matthews, score goals.
Yeah, producer Dave, just clip off Ryan's take there so he can, just kind of relax for this segment going forward.
That's right.
I'm gonna call out the bottom six. I'm gonna say it like Pacioretty, liking him on the second line, throwing the body up there. But
yeah, man,
the Domi, McMahon, I guess they had that one chance, which is good. But I want to see them make an impact. I want to see them make themselves felt. Like the Lawton, Lorentz, Yarncrux combo, they've kind of found their niche, and so they
were a lot less noticeable in this game though. That identity line.
Well, I think as well, I think Florida's fourth line is just that much better than Ottawa's fourth line, and so they have their work cut out for them. But I think I mean, I was about to say they don't need to score, but I changed mine. They do need to score. But on the way to scoring, they have to make their presence felt. They have to at least move the play up the ice. I want to start seeing those guys winning their minutes.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we've now played 7 playoff games, and the fourth line has no goals, and you've got to get, the number of times I can think of series the Leafs have lost where, Tampa's fourth line's getting, 5 total goals in the series or something like
absolutely.
that. I don't know. The Leafs can win this series, but you can't win if the power play doesn't do anything, the bottom 6 doesn't do anything, and...
No, I mean, the wash from that, though, is your bottom 6 isn't scoring, but your defense get 2 goals a game. That's where basically we haven't noticed it, our lack of offense from down the lineup, because, Ekman Larson has a couple goals. Riley just keeps scoring. I called him out. I said I want him to be better this series. He already has a goal. What are you going to do? And so, it's kind of you get your half of your goals from your best 4 or 5 players, and the other half have to come from lower in the lineup or the back end. So far, we're getting them exclusively from the back end. I don't know how much longer that can last. Chris Tanev scored tonight. There's no way that's sustainable. So let's get some goals to that bottom 6. That's a good one, Tim.
When they panned to Stolarz throwing up on the bench, I was the lack of reaction from the guys sitting there on the bench was telling. Pontus Holmberg just looked like he was sitting down on the couch watching an episode of Friends or something like that. A man is throwing up in front of you. That was shocking to me. Tim, when's the last time you threw up?
I try and not get interactions with Sam Bennett, so I've been concussion free.
That's a different podcast, Steven. You can save that for later.
What? Okay. The throw up...
Wednesday. The next game is Wednesday.
All right. I think we're wrapping up. Go Leafs, go. You got to win in game 1. It's just gravy from here. Win your home games, you win the series. Go Leafs, go. Leafscast signing off. Have a good night. Enjoy your Tuesday.